This is a very important issue. Uh, as, of course, like a lot of things in our society, it's a bit convoluted, but as many of you know, I am a PhD student pursuing my doctorate in ethical and creative leadership, and with a specialization in Martin Luther King Jr. studies. And the entire program at Union Institute and University is based on a justice perspective. That is, that there are certain things that um, are required simply as a matter of justice towards human beings. And I'm becoming more and more convinced as I read and study some of the history of abuse, and beginning with the time of slavery with the South African, the Royal African Company 500 years ago, before this country was even started. Um, they were importing slaves from Africa. And it continues on to today, and of course the latest thing to hit the news has been the very unfortunate situation in St. Louis County, Missouri, which has a very long history of using zoning and legal mechanisms to keep black people out of their neighborhoods. And that's why you get this weird thing going on with small towns that are 90% black or 90% white. And then you have police departments with their speed traps, and of course the poor people get trapped in the speed traps, the whole Megillah. But the Union Institute and University is headquartered in Cincinnati, Ohio. I'd never been to Cincinnati before January 2012. It's a really sweet little town in many ways. But it too has a very difficult history with relations between black people and white people. Uh, and so one of the things that has happened over the many years in Ohio is that the area around Cleveland, Ohio, has been very entrenched with the Democratic Party, so it's more, quote, liberal. And the Cincinnati area, which is in the kind of the southern part of the state, and actually there's parts of Cincinnati that border on the state of Kentucky. In fact, this last January I was in Erlanger, Kentucky. But anyway, that's part of the story in a different way. But Cincinnati has been dominated by the Republican Party. And quite sadly, the Republican Party in the last 40 years has developed what they call the Southern strategy, which is to utilize the fears of white people towards black people. And that's a very complex and convoluted history. But one of the things that has happened in Cincinnati, by the way, is in Hamilton County, Ohio. And one of the things that has happened over the years in Hamilton County is that the juvenile court system has been under the wing of some very sort of old-fashioned Southern men, white men, who have created, and of course, we have a great deal of hostility towards people whose skin is black, and particularly towards children whose skin is black. In fact, there were actual race riots in Cincinnati many years ago uh, as a result of this sort of tension. But the white people, or the white Republicans, not all white people, but the particular band of white Republicans, has really developed a system that is sort of akin to the old, it's very much akin to the old South, from what I can see. And they have a juvenile court system that functions more as a kangaroo court than it does as a place where justice or rehabilitation or anything like that is practiced. In fact, um, one of the things that we're seeing in this country is that there's a definite increase in the severity of disciplining of children who commit various infractions of the rules, the laws, the regulations relative to attending school. And some of these things actually end up in the juvenile court system. So that if there is a hegemonic system in place of, sadly, people whose skin is the same color as mine, and they have very hostile feelings towards people who have a different color of skin, namely black or brown, but in this case, mostly black. And so they have this school to prison pipeline, which, the kids get in trouble at school, and sometimes they elevate these, they send them to the juvenile courts. The juvenile courts have a lot of leeway. They are not subject to many of the same, well, children don't have the same constitutional rights as adults do in some situations. So, and then we have people who don't like black people. So, they use that as a way of taking advantage of poor people who are black. So into this mess steps an attorney by the name of Tracy Hunter. And she got involved in representing juveniles who were brought before the juvenile court system, and actually began to experience firsthand how this system works and how it's designed to create a school-to-prison pipeline, so that these children end up going straight from the classroom to the jailhouse, and many unfortunate consequences as a result of that. So she was representing these children and their families and trying to help. And most of these people were economically distressed. And they had food insecurity issues. They had a history of stress and tension, which I believe a lot of that is caused by the history of slavery and Jim Crow and sundown towns and real estate manipulation. I mean, it goes on and on and on. But anyway, Tracy Hunter did this for a number of years, and then she finally sort of got sick and tired of watching this travesty of justice taking place. So in 2010, she decided she was going to run for juvenile court judge in Hamilton County. It's a free country. People can run for whatever office they want to run for. So she did all of the legal whatever, filing fees and getting petitions. Anyway, she got on the ballot in 2010. And then some very interesting stuff happened, because come election night, it turned out to be a rather close election. And it appeared that she had won, but it also appeared that the same white Republican interests who have such hostility towards black people and such hostility towards, particularly towards black people voting, played a lot of games with the votes, sent people to the wrong polling place. They did everything they could to suppress the turnout of black people. But black people actually turned out that day in 2010, and after lawsuits and up to the state court of appeal and the state supreme court, Judge Hunter was actually declared the winner of this election. And interestingly enough, in Hamilton County, she was the first female, the first person of African American heritage, that is, the first black person, and the first person who is enrolled in the Democratic Party to be elected juvenile court judge in Hamilton County, Ohio. That's kind of amazing, isn't it? I mean, this county is so dominated politically by the Republican Party that this woman in the year 2010 was the very first African American female Democrat to be elected to this position. Well, his white folks didn't like that. Finally, Judge Hunter was seated after much legal wrangling, and as soon as she took her seat on the bench, she was going to try and run a courtroom that looked in terms of justice for these children who were being brought before her. And one of the things that she determined was that children being brought before her in court should not be shackled or unduly handcuffed. So what they were doing, the sheriffs and the local law enforcement, they would bring these kids in, they would have their hands shackled and their feet shackled, and they'd drag them into this courthouse. And Judge Hunter put a stop to that. She said, no, in my courthouse, people are considered to be innocent until actually proven guilty, and we're going to run this courthouse according to the rules of law and some constitutional principles and things like that. Well, long story short, Judge Hunter was actually indicted by the Hamilton County, I don't know if it was the grand jury or who it was, but she was indicted for 9 felony counts. And these were all based on the fact that she was attempting to run this courthouse in a way that Hamilton County had never seen a juvenile courthouse run according to proper procedures and the rule of law and rules of criminal procedure and all of that sort of thing. And so now, here it is, September of 2014, Judge Hunter, a couple of days ago, went to jail. I mean, not went to jail, but went on trial. And I'm telling you, one of my colleagues, well, 2 of my colleagues last year did a case study on not only going out of this particular case of People versus Hunter, and the amount of negative stuff that goes on, particularly relating to black children in Hamilton County, is pretty outrageous. So I know I've gone on and on and on here, but I really want to encourage people who see this video to understand that we have serious problems in this country with violent racism. Uh, what happened in Ferguson, Missouri, and what continues to happen in Ferguson, Missouri, is really the tip of the iceberg. What happened right here in New York City, on Staten Island, New York, where a guy got choked to death while selling loose cigarettes, while being black, of course. So we have a serious problem in this country that needs to at least be acknowledged. And I believe that if the Attorney General of the United States, Eric Holder, were to really send some people down there to Hamilton County, Ohio, and observe what's going on with this trial, and observe what has happened with Judge Hunter, who has really gone through a whole lot. I think that the Justice Department might have a cause to be concerned about violations of people's basic rights. So I want to encourage Eric Holder, our Attorney General, to look at this case and look at it seriously. I also, because I attend union and two of my colleagues know Judge Hunter and have been following this matter a long time, actually. I had the pleasure this last July of actually meeting Judge Hunter in person. She is a wonderful woman. She's actually, among other things, a Christian minister. And she actually has a church that she works with as a preacher. So this is not some fly-by-night lady. This is somebody who has worked very hard and has dedicated herself to bettering the lives of people in Cincinnati, Ohio. And so I have started a petition on changes.org that I will post. And I hope you people will look at this petition which tells this whole story and sign it and then pass it on. And this video, I hope that people will pass this video on to their friends. It's on Facebook. I'm not Facebook, but I'll post it to Facebook. But it's on my YouTube channel. And, you know, let's raise awareness about what this woman is going through. Because she's going through it for us. We as a nation need to deal with the problem of racism and the problem of actual hatred by white people, by people whose skin is the same color as mine, towards people whose skin color is different, namely people who are black and brown. And there's a lot of literature on this. Michelle Alexander's The New Jim Crow is an excellent book to read. Jonathan Kozol, Shame of the Nation, talks about how our schools are being resegregated. It goes on and on and on. So anyway, thank you for your time, and I hope you will sign the petition. I hope you will tell your friends about this, and take care.